Hey friends, Sherry here, and today I'm going to do a layout share. I apologize, I've been incognito, but we've had a busy summer filled with, of course, camps, vacations, and then we were doing some house renovations, and thankfully they are almost done, and I feel like I have my life back. So I've only been scrapping here and there as I've had a few minutes, and I really haven't when I've had a few minutes to scrap, I just get in here and do it, and don't want to take the time to set up the camera and everything. So I have been scrapping sporadically, and I thought I would just share these layouts with you. Okay, this one was for most of this, of course, the papers and things came from Hit Kit Club, and so let's go. This first one was from a sketch challenge from several weeks ago, and I really followed the sketch pretty closely. Just to share a few things that I did. Let's see. My daughter got an Eno this year, and literally she would sit in that thing for hours and relax and chill, listen to music, and I just loved every time I would go out there and see that. So I snapped a photo of her one day while she was out in it. She heard me coming up and she popped her head out, and I just loved that pic. But one thing I did, I wanted the Eno to match on my title, to match the font on the Eno brand. So I looked through my thickers, and I decided I loved this. It was the perfect font, but it was the wrong color, so I just took a white paint dabber and just did several coats of white paint over it, and I loved the way it turned out. Another fun little thing, we got a roller stamp with summer phrases on it in one of the kits, so I just stamped fun little lazy afternoon, summer vacation, summertime, just fun little fonts, fun little phrases. And let's see, on this, I think this may be October afternoon paper, I'm not sure, it kind of looks like it, but I obviously just cut out a few little clouds and popped them up, and that's about it. Just a fun quick little layout. Next up, this font cut file came from Gossamer Blue's Pretty Paper class. I fell in love with the papers and stamps from that class, so the papers and things came from Hip Kit, but I loved this font, and I thought it was perfect for this fat little caterpillar my daughter brought home from camp. So we named it Fatterpillar. She named it Fatterpillar, and obviously I just cut it out and blew these letters up so the fat would stand out, and then just backed it with different pattern papers. And just to make these pop a little more, I just took a black pen and went inside just to make them stand out a little bit. And that's about it. Just a fun, quick little bit of stitching, just to add a little bit of texture and detail, but just a really cute, fun little layout. Love that. Okay, this was from a Dollywood trip, and I love the map, but the map was so bold and bright with, I was afraid you wouldn't even notice the photos, so I took some, maybe some acrylic paint, liquid, the golden fluid paint, sorry, and maybe a little bit of linen acrylic paint, and mixed them and just did a real light, I may have even used a little bit of gesso over the map just to soften it. And at first I almost trashed this layout, but then I kind of worked through it, and now I'm kind of loving it. I did do a make a 2-pager out of this. So I just tore around the edges of the map and then just feathered out the paint there for the transition. And this was kind of fun. I took a piece of vellum and put the stickers on it and stitched them down so that I could overlay it there. I love the way that kind of pops out there. This, I use PicMonkey a lot for photo collages. It's such an easy way to get various sizes of photos without much effort. I mean, I have Photoshop, but PicMonkey is just so easy. You drag these photos in, you can play around and manipulate exactly where you want the photo, and then obviously it prints out on a 8.5 by 11 sheet, and then I just cut it up how I want, or sometimes I choose to leave it as a complete collage, but this I took part of the map and just highlighted our favorite things out of each little section. And just a fun, I mean, it's not stunning to me, but it's fun to me. I love this. We always have such a great time at Dollywood, so I wanted to document that. So just a fun little way to document a theme park. Okay, this was from our summer vacation, our big family vacation. And I just took some washi strips and taped them down the middle, then sewed them back. I wanted to pop these photos up, so I just used some vellum on the background. And a lot of people ask, do you still do two-page layouts? And I do, but here's how I approach it. Here was the first page, and then this one I of course did another collage on PicMonkey and just cut it apart and then just shifted it. And this is how I approach a two-page layout typically. I don't sit down and do it as one huge spread, but I do make them cohesive and complementary. One thing I did here, this paper I loved because it looked really pretty, but it was just a little too bold, so I took a piece of vellum and just stitched along the lines just to soften it, and I really, really love how this turned out. I think this might be crepe paper, chipboard, crepe paper? I don't know. Sounds right. I apologize. But anyway, I really love the softness of this, and of course just capturing all the fun little snippets of summer vacation. So that is that. This was this week's challenge at Hip Kit Club. The challenge was to use paper strips, and I have been just, every time I trim off a branding strip on pattern paper, I just keep them together. You can see here's my collection, and what I did for this layout, I just got these photos out that I wanted to use and just pulled some strips out that had colors that were in the photos, and just laid those out. Initially I was going to cut them up in 2 or 3 inch pieces and do a subway tile effect, but I just couldn't get it to look the way I wanted it to, so surprise, surprise, I went back to a cleaner approach and really loved how it turned out. So just a fun, easy little, these I just took some gelatos and rubbed it in there, and just to kind of color that wood veneer, and I really loved these corrugated letters that came in our kit. I just think they work great with this layout, so just a fun little layout. This layout I just completed today. This is some of the Crepe Paper Wonder collection, and I've had these photos for a couple of years and just never scrapped them, so I always believe when that happens that the scrappy gods are telling me to wait. There's a collection coming, and this was a classic example of that. Just a really simple layout. I started with this Pink Fresh Studio paper and turned it on its side, and then I just love all these sweet little embellishments that came in the Crepe Paper Wonder ephemera pack, and backed it on the crepe paper wood grain. So just a really simple, fun little layout. This was a tag, and so I just cut the letter B out because our cat's name is Butterscotch, and we call him Buddy, Butterscotch Buddy. We have all kinds of nicknames for him, but I just thought the B was so perfect since his name starts with the B. So just a sweet, simple, fun layout. This is one of my new favorites. Started with this Pink Fresh paper, and I took a paper plate and drew a couple of circles, and then I stitched a couple of straight stitch, and then I used a zigzag stitch for this little bit. One thing that I don't know if you can see, I'm going to try to turn it. I used clear embossing powder on a lot of the dots and the words and inside the feathers there, just to give it a little bit of dimension, because as much as I love this paper, it's beautiful. It just, sometimes I struggle using something where typically you would add the a little dimension. So just to give it a little bit of interest, I added that clear embossing powder. Here I actually used a colored zing. I just traced over it with a Versamark pen, and I know it's hard to see, but it just adds such a beautiful, subtle effect, and I really love it. So then of course I added a few more pop dots just to really give it some dimension. Did my journaling around the photo. Again, this was a pick monkey. I just took a photo and put it in the shape thing, and voila, when you print it out, there you are. You have your fabulous circle, and you can manipulate the size and everything, so that's awesome. And I used these little acetate things as corner rounders. The shapes were wonky, so I just figured out a way to trim it so that it would make it kind of a wonky triangle, but I really loved how that turned out. Just this was such a fun day of soccer. The kids were cheering each other on. It was just really sweet, and their excitement for one another just melted my heart. So I grabbed a quick photo of them at the end of the day, and I just love it. Special. Okay, last but not least, this is another layout I did this weekend. My daughter went to Dollywood with a friend for her birthday, and my son was in a soccer tournament. And so I found myself home alone for almost 24 hours. So of course I scrapped. So let's see, let's get started. What I did, I just wanted to show a few things. I have this Balzer design stencil. I just took a couple of shades of paint. What I wanted to do, I wanted to mimic my daughter's ombre t-shirt. So I just laid it down in random places and took a little paper plate and put plastic plate and put a couple of little dabs of paint in there. The big trick is you don't want this saturated. You almost tamp it off until there's not a lot of paint on it. Then you just keep working. I worked my way around, then I switched colors, worked my way around, and just did that in a few places. Then I had another Heidi Swap stencil that had hearts, so I took texture paste and added a little bit of this paint to it to get that shade. And I really love the dimension on that, and a couple of other little things that I did that I wanted to share with you. These glitter stickers, which I love, and I used here obviously. I didn't want this to be overwhelmed with silver, so I took this is a non-stick sheet here, and I put this title Celebrate on it, and then I took this Brilliance ink pad and just stamped all over that and let it dry, and I love how it turned out. One reason I love to use, a lot of times if I try to change the color of a glittery thicker, it becomes matte, but the wonderful thing about this ink pad is it has shimmer to it, so it just plays off of the glitter, and I love it. I also did that with these stars from Freckled Fawn. They were a little bit too turquoise, so I just toned it down just a little bit with the blue, and I really love how it turned out. Initially I was just going to do all blues, different stages of blues, but then I realized it was screaming for more red, so I just machine stitched inside the stars there, a little pop of red, added a few red dots. This little felt heart that came in the kit I was going to hand stitch with embroidery floss, but my needle wasn't sharp enough, or it was too big, and I just decided it was going to be too time consuming, so I machine stitched inside the little heart too, and then just backed it on some, I think, Heidi Swap paper. This background paper is October Afternoon. See, that's that pretty little gray paper. But anyway, this, I think, the last two layouts are my two new favorites, and as always, thank you for watching and for subscribing, and I appreciate your sweet comments, and I'm hoping within the next couple of weeks things will settle down a little bit and I'll be able to do some more process videos, but I've just come to the realization that it's more important that I actually get some scrapping done and not stress about the process videos as much as I love doing them. Sometimes a girl just needs to create, so if you find yourself, my fellow YouTubers, putting off scrapping because you don't have time to film, just forget the camera and go have fun, and at least that's what works for me, and I'm happy I was able to squeeze out a little bit of scrappy time. So as the summer is winding down, I hope you all enjoy the last few days of summer, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.